right, so our next speaker, I'm really excited. This speaker's kind of left field. We did a retreat where we did a behind-the-scenes tour of Aria Casino in Vegas. That was in November of last year. We saw everything behind the scenes. We saw where they do the laundry. We ate with the employees, did all kinds of cool stuff. And then we met Ted, and Ted is head of surveillance at Aria Casino. And when we were there, after we did our behind-the-scenes tour, I asked the people in our mastermind group, I'm planning mastermind talks. Who would be a speaker you'd like to see at the event? Thinking they're going to give me names like Seth Godin, all these big names. And 3 or 4 people said, Ted, we'd love to see Ted. And I'm like, he's not a speaker. He's just a dude who works in the casino. Phenomenal. I had incredible stories and stuff like that. I just wasn't expecting him. And the more I thought about it, this man understands human behavior on a deep level. He's one of those people that you'd have dinner with him and you'd want him hooked up to a microphone to hear his stories. So really excited to have him here. He came in obviously from Vegas to be here and play the video.
When you've been working in the gaming industry for over 25 years, you have a few stories to tell, that's for sure. These stories aren't just entertaining tales, they serve as opportunities to learn about the nature of human beings. These stories either confirm the success or reveal the flaws of a system. In Ted's vast gaming industry career, he has spent 20 years in surveillance, where he says that technology is the key to the success of a system. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ted Whiting.
How do you like that theme song? So that's Jason. I'm glad to be here, excited and surprised he asked me, but when he said I got to pick a theme song, all right. Now wherever I go, now I'm playing that theme song. It was Eye in the Sky. That's me. So I got to figure this clicker out. So that's me, Ted Whiting, and this is where I work. I'm not an entrepreneur like Jason said. I'm different than all of you. I'm the guy who works for the man, and this is where the man lives. He lives at City Center. And it's my job. I realized in the last 2 days that most people don't really understand at all where I'm coming from and what I do. So I have to tell you a little bit about what I do, why they pay me. So I protect the assets of the casino, and that's the high-level stuff of what I do. But what I'm actually doing is solving mysteries. So that's why my job is so cool, because every day I get to come to work and I get to figure things out that nobody else is thinking about, and it's just a lot of fun. But the mysteries that I solve and the way that I'm protecting the assets is specifically I look for the cheaters and I look for advantage players. So that's key to my whole talk. Is usually I talk to industry people and I say advantage player and they know what I mean. So advantage players are people who find a way to beat the casino without cheating. So they're entrepreneurs. So that's the connection here. And I don't have anything against them. I actually meet them, and later in years, I threw out the MIT team. You saw the movie, probably the MIT movie a few years ago, called 21. And I know those guys that the movie was based on. And I've met them at conferences now, and I walk up to them and I tell them, "Hey, Mike, it's great to see you." And I realize, oh, they've never seen me before, so it's a little awkward at first. And it's all friendly, because I really do have a lot of respect for the ones who don't cheat. The cheats, it's another story. But we're going to talk mostly about the people who don't cheat. So this is my surveillance room. It's 1,200 cameras there, and we're protecting all of this, all of those areas. There's 2,000 slot machines, 110 table games, 30 poker tables. I don't know if you noticed, but there was only 3 people sitting there. So how is that possible that we could succeed with only 3 people looking at 1,200 cameras? And the fact is they can only look at one at a time. So we must have some tricks. And we do, of course. Like Jason mentioned, I look at behavior. We look at things that other people miss. And that's the connection with what I do to what you do. You're successful because you saw something in whatever industry you're in that everyone else was missing, and then you exploited it. I see things that people miss, except for those entrepreneurial card counters. I see it, and instead of exploiting it, I shut it down completely. I'm the guy who ruins it for everybody. So what do we look for? We look for the anomalies. Like right now in this group, I'm the white goose, because I don't entrepreneur. So we look for... See, I also make up my own words pretty frequently. They don't let me out of the basement much. My office actually is the eye in the basement, not the eye in the sky. So Or we look for anomalies. And I look for anomalies in two different areas. I look for anomalies in data and then in human behavior. And we can marry both those things together. So I'm going to show you really, it won't be quick, but it should be interesting. It is to me anyway. And this is an anomaly in data and behavior. So that's a continuous shuffle machine. And continuous shuffle machines were put into casinos to make more money for the casinos. And by that I mean, with that machine, we don't have to waste time with the dealer shuffling the cards. We're not getting hands out when the dealer's shuffling and we lose money. So these machines were invented and they work really well. And they also completely killed card counting because there is no shuffle for them to track. The cards that go in the machine were on the layout and go back in the machine can reappear on the next round. So that means card counting and a bunch of other things don't work. But there's a way to destroy this machine, or there was. I shut it down completely. But 8 years ago, there was anomalies here and weirdness that allowed a team to beat this machine. So the way they did that is, I got a call from this casino and they said, hey, we got something really cool. We've got a guy who's beating us on Casino War and we're very sure that he's sequence tracking cards. So what sequence tracking is if you've got a sequence of cards, let's say you have 3 cards, card A, B, and C. If you see card A and B coming, you know C is coming. And if you know that C is coming and you know it's a good card, and a good card on a game called Casino War, good cards are 10s and aces. You have about a 50% edge in that case. So that's a really high edge if you could predict, if you could sequence track those cards. But continuous shufflers are actually quite random. So it was strange that this, it was weird. This was the weirdness that they pursued. Number one, it's weird that somebody's playing Casino War because it's a really stupid game. It's that game you played as a kid. My card beats your card, I win. So an entrepreneur actually took that simple idea and twisted it a little bit, created a house advantage on ties, and sold it to casinos. So now we have it. So a smarter entrepreneur actually looked at this shuffle machine and said, I can beat Casino War. And here's what he did. He was sequence tracking the cards. And the way he did that is, well, I asked this company that found it, well, what did you do about it? He said, well, we threw the guy out. And they knew he was sequence tracking because he was betting $3,000 a hand, him and his partner, every time 10s and aces got into his hand. So that's pretty good, and he was betting $25 the rest of the time. So statistically, they used the anomaly in the data. This is impossible. You couldn't randomly bet 6 times an hour, 3,000 and catch aces every time. It just can't happen. So they looked at that and they said, okay, they're definitely sequence tracking. And I asked them, what did you do? And they said, well, we threw them out. I said, well, that's good. That's the first part of this. But how were they doing it? And they said, well, we don't know. So that's never good enough for me. I want to figure this out. Remember, I like to solve mysteries. So this is a pretty good mystery. So I got myself one of these machines. That's the one. And I looked at it, and I took it apart, and I watched it, and I listened to it, and I played around with it. And what I did, that holds 6 decks of shoes, which is 312 cards. So I numbered the cards 1 through 312, and I put them in the machine in order. And then I shut the machine up, let it run, and then I popped the top off, and I removed the cards from the slots. And when I removed them, I spread the cards out and I looked for sequences. And I knew I was going to find them, or I suspected that I did, because this is what the team was doing at this other casino. So I spread the cards out and I saw 22, 23, 24, 25. So okay, I see a sequence of cards here. It turned out that this machine would create sequences about 30% of the time. And that allowed them to have cards that they could actually play about 6 times a shoe with a 50% edge. So if they're betting $3,000 a hand times 6, $18,000, that means they're winning $9,000 an hour. And that's a pretty good return, even for this group. Even the guys in the front that were at the high dollar, that's not bad. It's $9,000 an hour. So what I did to figure out how this machine was being beat is I knew the sequences were there, but the important thing is you have to know where they are and how to react to them. So I was listening to the machine, and I noticed something really unique about this machine, something really weird. And I always pursue weird because I know that's where the money is. So just like you're doing. So what I noticed is the machine made a weird, strange sound. It made this sound when cards went into the pocket. And then when the pocket turned, the wheel turned, it clicked. So when I heard click, I knew that my sequence of 4 cards was available for me sometime in the future. And all I had to do was wait for my 2 key cards and then play it. It was that simple. And it was really, really easy. So I called the manufacturer and I said, hey, instead of could we just get a and then a click? And they said, sure. They never admitted there was a problem, of course, because they don't want anyone to come back and say, give me, you got beat and we want our money back. So, but they fixed it. So it completely shut that thing down. And I forgot to mention that the thing that the surveillance department identified was not just the weirdness in the data, but the weirdness in the behavior. So the people who were playing this, the team that was beating this machine, was acting in a strange way, and that's what caused them to analyze this in the first place. So that leads me to my behavior thing. So isn't that cute? Everybody likes babies, I think. So I wanted to put something that was a real crowd pleaser. How are you not going to like that? I had a baby on the plane with me. I thought, oh no, this is going to be awful. It was just really cute. It was fine. I go off sometimes, and I don't know what I'm going to say. So pacifying behaviors, we all hear about tells, especially in the casino world, right? You look around like this, it means you're going to steal something. If you're playing poker and you look at your chips and your cards and your chips, it means, oh, I have a good hand. So tells are something we all understand and are familiar with, but pacifying behaviors are what the real story is. So tells are maybe a third of what goes on, and we know about them. Pacifying behaviors are things that we do when we're uncomfortable, and we don't even know that we're doing them. So that's where the real weirdness is. When I see people behaving in a strange way, I think, why are they uncomfortable? What made them uncomfortable? And then it's my job to figure out what made them uncomfortable. So some of the pacifying behaviors that you'll see, this is a pacifier. I do this all the time, playing with my ring. Women do this, touch their neck right here. They play with their hair. This is a great pacifier. When people do this, it's a ventilating act. So all these things, does it mean I'm dishonest or I'm truthful? It doesn't mean any of that. It just means I'm uncomfortable, or the person I'm observing is uncomfortable. So you can't really tell if somebody's lying or telling the truth by watching their behavior. You can tell that they're either comfortable or uncomfortable, and that's pretty close to it. So we talk a lot, too, about faces, and everyone spends a lot of time here, but this part of your face, if you're trained and you're thinking about it, or this part of your body, is something you've managed your whole life. So it's not always that honest. The rest of your body is the honest part. So think of your face as how you've managed it since you were a little kid. You're told, don't roll your eyes, right? Wipe that smirk off your face. If you keep sticking your lip out like that, a bird's going to poop on it. Do you ever hear? My family's weird, right? It works, though. I only pout on the inside now. So I know for sure that those things work because I learned to manage this, and all of us did. But what we don't manage is our feet and the rest of our body. The feet are the most honest part of the body. And when I say feet, the feet control all of this. So I'm going to show you a video here of a dealer who was ripping us off. And I have to give you a little background because you're not industry people, and this is a little confusing. So here's how this dealer was beating us. He's dealing the cards, and he's working with this guy right down here. And he'd peek that card, and now he knows the value of the card, and he's going to tell you, because we're working together now, good card, bad card. So good card means take the hit, bad card means don't take it. And that is really lucrative and a bad thing for him to do. So, all right, let's roll a clip. And I want you to look for the pacifying behavior. It hasn't started yet because he hasn't decided to cheat yet. So it's the guy in the first spot, right there. He's got 12, and he's betting about 3,000 a hand. Now he's got 15, and here comes the cheat. You see the pacifier? I'm mimicking it in the back who can't see this too clearly. Look, there's his peak. We're never going to see that peak, though, because it happens too quick. But there, he's way back and forth, and now you're going to see in a moment my surveillance operator says, wow, that's weird. Why is he uncomfortable all of a sudden? And the great part about this guy is a poster child for it, but they all do it. They all have pacifiers when they're doing something that makes them uncomfortable. Now the cheat is over, and his pacifying behavior ends. So that's what we look for. People say, how do you have 3 people and catch things? That's how we do it. We look for anomalies. We look for the weirdness. The money is in the weirdness. He was really surprised when we took him. They all are. You know, the worst day you can have if you see me come into your office, because it's your last day. So this is better, I think, because it displays a bunch. That was a lingering pacifying behavior, the back and forth. That's all about the feet. This guy is all about the hands, and he has a cluster of pacifiers. So he knocks on the table, and he touches his face a bunch of times. And I'm looking for the pointer. Oh, I did something bad. All right, look at the big guy. Is that the pointer? No. Right there. So he's going to steal in a moment. He picks the perfect time to steal because a pretty girl walks up. I had to watch it twice as I looked at the girl. So don't do that. Ignore her completely. Okay, ignore her. Don't look. Some of you looked. There goes. The check's right into his pocket. So that's how quick the thing. But now look, he knocked on the table. There's his face. He leaves his hand in front of his face. That's another pacifier. And here come 2 more. Face and another face. Those are all classic. You know, he's wiping his forehead because he's uncomfortable. He's very uncomfortable. Now, does that mean for sure that he's stealing? No. It just means he's uncomfortable. Maybe he hates the players. Maybe somebody's smoking in his face. I don't know. But it's my job to figure it out. And of course, that happened in another casino, and they did figure it out. They figured out that he's stealing. And it was all because of that cluster of pacifiers. And where it's more significant in the casino world is dealers, you've all seen them do this, right? With clear hands. They have to do that before they touch their body. So it's really easy for us to see when a dealer's touching themselves, they just can't do it unless they cleared their hands first. So they're just lining up for us there. That guy's screaming, look at me, I'm stealing. Or I'm uncomfortable, and then we figure out he's stealing. So this woman's face looks pretty unhappy. And she's a player. I got to tell you how this scam, because it's a little bit confusing. So she's been playing and part of a team of about 20 members. She's been playing for over a decade. And what's interesting about her is she's a lifetime loser, but she's an advantage player. So she's not somebody who cheats. She just uses information that's available to everyone and beats us with it. And what the information she gets is hole card information. So the game of blackjack, most of us are familiar with that. So what you see is one card up, right, for the dealer, and one card is buried. You can't see it. So imagine if you're playing the game of blackjack with both cards exposed. Your edge is between 8 and 10% if you're able to play that way. That's what she does, but she's part of a team. She actually doesn't play it. She just gets the information. So what she gets is she sees the whole card, she communicates that information to her team, and her team of the other 19 people are all, of course, lifetime winners at MGM Resorts. She was the only loser, and you can see she's a short person, and her face, it doesn't show really well here, her face is really upset and unhappy. But what I want you to see now is the video. So watch her feet and how strangely she's sitting. So she either has to pee really bad, or she's up to something, or at least for sure she's uncomfortable. So we were able to find this team, this hole card team, just because we noticed that she's sitting in a weird way and her foot is moving nonstop. And then the surveillance department pursued that weirdness. And that's what we do, we pursue weirdness. And that's what you do too. You pursue the things that are different than everybody else sees, and you make money from them. So you guys probably don't know, Aria is actually owned by MGM Resorts, so I'm required every time I speak in public to talk about the Wizard of Oz at least one time. So I thought this was pretty appropriate when Glinda said you had the power all along. Mostly this is about looking at the anomalies. We all do this already, but everybody, not everybody, most people, less people in this group because you like to see the different things, but most people dismiss the anomalies as not important. The money is in the weird. When you see that something is strange or unusual or weird, you have an obligation to yourself to understand, first of all, is it important? And if you decide that the weirdness is important, you have to do one of two things. You have to exploit it the way you have to be successful, or you have to shut it down completely the way I do. That's it. You have to look at the weird and don't ignore it and pursue the weird. So thank you. That's my time.